I never thought my medical condition would become a weapon in the hands of our HOA president. But that's exactly what happened last summer. My name is Nathan, and I've lived in Willowbrook Estates for 5 years now. It's a beautiful neighborhood with well-kept lawns, picturesque houses, and unfortunately, the most controlling HOA president in existence, Karen Winters. When I first moved in, I was aware of the Homeowners Association rules. They seemed reasonable on paper. Maintain your lawn. No gaudy decorations, garbage bins tucked away promptly after collection day, standard stuff. What the welcome packet failed to mention was that Karen Winters treated the HOA rulebook like her personal manifesto, and the neighborhood as her kingdom. I'm a software developer who works from home. I keep to myself, pay my dues on time, and generally try to be a good neighbor. I also happen to have photosensitive epilepsy, a condition I've managed well for years with medication. It's not something I broadcast, but my immediate neighbors know just as a precaution. Karen found out during an HOA meeting when I mentioned it as part of a discussion about the proposed installation of motion-activated floodlights throughout the community. We can't be expected to compromise community safety because of one person's issue, Karen had said, with a dismissive wave of her hand, her voice dripping with condescension. The way she said issue made it sound like I was claiming to be allergic to unicorns. Nevertheless, the board voted to ensure any new lighting would be installed with epilepsy-friendly fixtures. Karen was outvoted, and I could tell by the tight smile on her face that she took it personally. The trouble really started 3 months ago when I decided to repaint my front door. The previous owner had chosen a drab beige that matched the siding, but I wanted something with a bit more personality. I checked the HOA guidelines carefully. Solid colors in earth tones were permitted. I chose a pleasant forest green, purchased HOA, approved paint, and spent a Saturday afternoon on the project. By Sunday evening, a violation notice was taped to my newly painted door. Dear homeowner, it read in Karen's unmistakable passive-aggressive style. Your door color ref, forest. Green falls outside the approved earth tones. Palette as defined in section 4.3 of the HOA guidelines. Please restore to an approved color within 7 days to avoid daily fines of $50. I was baffled. Forest green was literally the color of trees. How much more earth tone could you get? I took photos and brought the issue up at the next HOA meeting. The other board members agreed with me, and Karen was forced once again to back down. The look she gave me could have curdled milk. Fine, she had muttered, but I'll be keeping a very close eye on your property from now on, Mr. Hayes. And keep an eye she did. Over the next few weeks, I received violation notices for everything imaginable. A flower pot that extended 2 inches beyond my front step, a garden hose improperly stored, though it was neatly coiled in a hose reel, and even one for excessive bird activity at my bird feeder. Each time I documented the absurdity appealed to the board, and each time Karen was overruled. It became almost comical. The other neighbors started checking in with me weekly to hear about Karen's latest. Some even began inviting me to neighborhood gatherings. I'd previously not been part of united in our collective eye rolling over her behavior. But Karen wasn't finding any of it funny. With each thwarted attempt to find me, she became more openly hostile. The situation escalated dramatically when I installed solar panels on my roof. I'd done everything by the book, submitted the proper forms, included the manufacturer specifications, and received written approval from the architectural committee. The installation was completed on a Tuesday. By Tuesday evening, Karen was standing on my front lawn, face flushed with anger, clutching a stack of papers. Those panels are not approved. HOA colors, she practically shouted as I opened the door, and they're reflecting light into my home office across the street. She thrust a hastily printed copy of some obscure HOA bylaw at me. Section 7.2b clearly states that all external fixtures must not cause light disturbance to other residents. I remained calm despite her finger jabbing dangerously close to my face. Karen, the architectural committee, approved these specific panels. They're anti-glare and meet all county regulations for residential solar installation. If you're having issues with reflection, I'm happy to have the installer come check, but they shouldn't be causing any problem. I know what I see, she hissed through clenched teeth. Those panels are coming down, or you'll be fined. $200 a day. With that, she spun on her heel, marched across. My lawn ironically violating the no walking on lawns rule she so rigorously enforced and disappeared into her house. The next day, I received an official-looking letter revoking the architectural committee's approval, signed only by Karen. A quick call to other board members confirmed what I suspected. She had no authority to overturn the committee's decision unilaterally. When they confronted her, she claimed I had modified the plans after approval, which was demonstrably false based on the documentation I had kept. At this point, several board members suggested I consider legal action for harassment, but I was still hoping to resolve things amicably. Instead, I decided to address the issue at the next HOA meeting, which was scheduled for the following week. In retrospect, that may have been my mistake. It gave Karen time to plan. The night before the meeting, I was working late in my home office when I noticed unusual flashing lights coming through my window. At first, I thought it might be an emergency vehicle in the neighborhood, but the pattern was strange. Rapid, irregular bursts of intensely bright light directed straight at my house. I got up to investigate and saw Karen standing on the edge of my property with what appeared to be a high-powered flashlight or spotlight, deliberately aiming it through my windows and rapidly flicking it on and off. My first thought was confusion. What on earth was she doing then as the disorienting light continued to flash? I felt the all-too-familiar aura that precedes a seizure. The realization hit me with horror. She was deliberately trying to trigger my epilepsy. I lunged for my phone to call for help, but the seizure hit before I could reach it. The last thing I remember was collapsing onto my office floor. I woke up in an ambulance, a paramedic checking my vitals. My neighbor Dave was there too. He'd been walking his dog, witnessed Karen's actions, and immediately called 911 when he saw the flashing lights. He'd also rushed to my house and found me mid-seizure after Karen had fled the scene. She knew exactly what she was doing. Dave told the police officers who met us at the hospital. I heard her mutter something about seeing how he likes light disturbances as she ran back to her house. She had some kind of modified tactical flashlight with a strobe setting. The police took statements from both Dave and me. They seemed genuinely shocked by the deliberate nature of the incident. "This goes well beyond an HOA dispute, sir," one officer said gravely. "What you're describing is assault with intent to cause bodily harm. Given that she was aware of your medical condition and deliberately exploited it, we're taking this very seriously." 2 days later, after I was released from the hospital, I learned that Karen had been arrested. The district attorney was charging her with second-degree assault, reckless endangerment, and because she had specifically targeted a medical condition, they were considering adding a hate crime enhancement. Security cameras from 2 neighboring houses had captured her actions, clearly leaving little room for denial. News of the arrest spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. The remaining HOA board members called an emergency meeting and voted unanimously to remove Karen from her position. They also passed a resolution apologizing to me and covering my medical expenses. Not paid by insurance, Karen's bail hearing was a sobering affair. The judge, clearly disturbed by the premeditated nature of her actions, set bail at $250,000. As she was led away in handcuffs, the reality of her situation finally seemed to dawn on her. Her face, usually set in smug authority, crumpled as the prosecutor outlined the potential penalties up to 15 years in prison, given the aggravated nature of the assault. "But it was just a flashlight," she protested, her voice cracking with panic as they escorted her out. The aggravated nature of the assault. "But it was just a flashlight," she protested, her voice cracking with panic as they escorted her out. "He's been violating HOA rules for months. I was just trying to prove a point." The judge's gavel came down hard, silencing her final desperate attempt to justify the unjustifiable.